Hi friends. Okay, we are going to get going here today. It is April the 7th, 2020. When you're finished here today, your IXL assignment is going to be E7. And we're going to continue our conversation here with dividing, going with 2-digit dividends by or being divided by a 1-digit divisor. Before we can begin, I want to make sure that we have a little recap on the vocabulary used when dividing. Okay, so what I have here, kind of in the middle of all this mess, is a very simple division problem. 24 divided by 6. And you'll see that we're switching over to that kind of bigger fourth grade number within the box style. Okay, 24 divided by 6. It's important to know a couple of things here, especially about some words that I'm going to be sharing here in just a moment. This 6 is called the divisor. The divisor is always the number that's on the outside of the box. You may know it as the supervisor if you've been listening with Mr. Hogan on how he says things. The divisor or the supervisor, and that's the amount of groups that the total is going to be split into. So this could be my jelly beans, and this could be the bags of my jelly beans, okay? 24. Well, 24, the number inside of that box is called the dividend. And the dividend is the total that's going to be divided out. So 6 groups or 6 bags of jelly beans, 24 total jelly beans, okay? When I completely finish this problem out, 6 times 4 is 24. When I subtract, I've got 0 left over. This 4 up top, we know it to be my final answer. Its mathematical term is the quotient, Q-U-O-T-I-E-N-T, the quotient, and that's the amount in each group. So there's going to be 4 jelly beans in each of the 6 bags, okay? It's also simply your answer. Divisor, or the supervisor, dividend, answer, quotient, okay? So let's take a look at a couple of problems here today. I'm going to go over just kind of those old school lessons that we did on division just to get the steps down. Some of that division dialogue that we did in my classroom was the multiply, subtract, bring it on down, and bring it on back. So you're going to be hearing me say that here today as we go through the lesson, okay? Couple things to remember. If I'm saying this out loud, you're reading it as 48 divided by 4. 48 jelly beans now being divided into 4 bags. Here's how you start a division problem. Take a finger and cover up the larger value, the smallest value. I don't know what I'm thinking here. Smallest place value in the problem. Okay, so right in here, 48, I'm going to cover up the 1s and just focus on my 10s. I'm going to be multiplying my supervisor to get as close to, without going over, that 4. So remember, we always talked about the Price is Right. You want to play that game like the Price is Right, where you want to get as close to this number, but you don't want to go over, just like those contestants do on the show. So sometimes you'll see Mr. Hogan do this. My divisor, my supervisor, the jobs that he knows how to do, his multiples are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, and so on and so forth. Well, of all the jobs that 4 knows how to do, the closest to 4 without going over would be 4. So you would multiply 4 one whole time. 4 times 1 gives me 4. I've multiplied. Now I got to figure out how to subtract. 4 times 1 is 4. I subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0. Multiply, subtract, bring it on down, and bring it on back. Now I have the division problem of 8 divided by 4. Looking at all the jobs that 4 knows how to do, 4 can get as close to 8. Well, here we go. It's a direct hit. 4 times 1, 2. 4 times 2 gives me 8. When I subtract, I have 0 that remains. So my final answer here is 12. 48 divided by 4 is 12. Scooching down. Sometimes you may see me get into the habit of just getting started. I look at my divisor here, I see that it's a 5, and I might just list down a couple of his jobs or a couple of the multiples off to the side, covering up my smallest value. What can I multiply 5 by to get me as close to 5 without going over? Well, 5 times 1. 5 times 1 is 5. I've multiplied. I subtract. I bring it on down. And I bring it on back. How many times can I multiply 5 before it gets too big for 6? Well, 5's a little bit under, but 10 is too big. I got to get as close to that 6 as I can without going over. So 5 times 1 again is 5. When I subtract, I've got 1 left over. And I say left over, or I say remains, because I've got no other numbers here to drop down. 56 can be divided by 5, 11 equal times, with a remaining 1. So my final answer, 11 remainder of 1. Let's take a look at another one. 89 divided by 7. Ooh, some of us might be saying, Mr. Hogan, my 7s, I'm so rusty on my 7s. Or Mr. Hogan, I don't know any of the multiples of 7 that go all the way up to 89. You don't have to. That's why we divide. We can figure this out. Let me list out a couple of my multiples. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 42, so on and so forth. Cover it up. How many times can I multiply 7 before it gets too big for 8? Just once. 7 times 1 is 7. I multiply, I subtract. 8 minus 7 leaves me with 1, and I bring my 9 down. My new division problem is 19 divided by 7. Well, what's the closest job here, the closest multiple that 7 can get to 19 without going over? 7's too small, 14's too small, but 21 is too big. Even though there's going to be a difference here, 14 is the closest I can get to 19 without going over, which is 7 times 1, 2. 7 times 2 is 14. When I subtract, I have 5 that remain. 5 that remain, okay? I know that I'm finished for 2 reasons here. First being, I've got no other numbers to drop down. There's nothing else to bring down. The second reason I know that I am completely finished with this problem is that my remainder is smaller than my divisor. If I have a remainder that's smaller than the divisor and I've got nothing else to bring down, I know that I am finished with my problem. My final answer is 12 with a remainder of 5. One more problem for you, and I'm going to get you guys started. Stephen had 36 cherries and shared them evenly across 6 ice cream sundaes. How many cherries did each sundae have? This is going to be a pause and try question. I want you to set this problem up the way that you think it should be done, okay? Stephen had 36 cherries and shared them evenly across 6 ice cream sundaes. How many cherries did each sundae have? Pause your video, try this out, come back in just a second by hitting play, and let's see if our answers make sense. Okay. If he has a total of 36 cherries, and he wants to share them evenly tells me that I'm going to be dividing because I'm putting them in even groups here, amongst 6 ice cream sundaes. Okay, well, let's take a look. 36 is my total. I'm sharing it amongst 6 sundaes. Let's see. My jobs of 6. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, so on and so forth. A couple ways I can go about this. You might already be like, Mr. Hogan, stop, it's easy. Or some of us might be thinking, Mr. Hogan, it's still easy, but let's take a look. Is there anything I can multiply 6 by that gives me 3? No. The closest thing that gets me to 3 is that 0 that's there. Okay, so there's really nothing I can do to multiply 6 by to give me 3, so I'll move my finger over. Of all of the jobs that 6 knows how to do, which is the closest to 36 without going over? Well, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. I've got a direct match here. 6 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice that I put that 6 on top of the 6 in my problem here. So I'm not dividing into that 3 anymore. I'm going into the whole 36. 6 times 6 is 36. 0 remain. What this tells me, and since I have a word problem here, how many cherries did each sundae have? Each sundae has 6 cherries. Boys and girls, you got this, okay? Take a look if you need to do any review. Again, your assignment today is E7. Have a great, great day.